The inaugural Tourism Investment Forum Africa is being hosted in Canon Island in Upington in the Northern Cape until Friday. It aims to bring together the tourism and investment sectors to devise ways to promote sustainable growth in the sector. But it's also a unique opportunity for that region to showcase its tourism potential. SABC News reporter Reginald Witbooi is there. Reginald, good evening to you and welcome. They certainly chose a great part of the country to kick this off with. You've got so much natural beauty there, including the Kgalagadi Trans-Frontier Park. You've got the museums and, of course, the craft beer. Take us into the room. What was the first day like?
Well, a very good evening to you, Iman, and also to our viewers. Well, we came to day one of the inaugural Tourism Investment Forum Africa here in Upington. And also don't forget about the beautiful Ochrabis Falls near Kakamas, I must say, and also the big hole we have in this province. But when we look at the figures, the tourism figures specifically of South Africa, in 2019, it contributed 37.2% to the country's GDP. In 2021, it actually took a dip to 32.7%, and for many countries the economic growth is actually very worrisome. But it is here in Upington where leaders, investors of the different African countries descended to discuss the pathway for economic growth, specifically for the tourism sector. But day one came to an end today. So just to tell us how it all went, all those discussions, those deliberations that went on to steer their countries on the path to economic growth, I am now joined by Miller Masemola, and he is from Milvest. A very good evening to you, sir, and thank you for your time. Just tell us, how did day one go in terms of those discussions that you had today?
Well, thank you. The day went off very well. We had representation from, obviously, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, who joined us virtually to tell us about the trends in terms of investment in the tourism industry, and also what some destinations that are starting to emerge out of, the COVID-induced slowdown are doing to recover and build more resilience into their economies. Critically, though, we also had the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat indicated, obviously, their support for, intra-Africa investment, and the fact that some of the protocols they are dealing with are really aimed at facilitating not only trade but business as well as investment across borders. So those were some of the critical issues that were discussed during the day, but also we had some of the financiers and development finance institutions discussing innovative ways of financing especially tourism assets, because as you might know, since COVID we've had a slowdown in investment in especially hospitality and tourism assets. Banks become a little bit risk averse, and so the discussions were how do we find innovative ways of making sure that we can continue investing in both traditional and non-traditional tourism investments. Examples were given of what some other countries were doing in making sure that their environment of doing business is conducive for investment. We had, for example, Rwanda giving some ideas of what they've done in terms of consulting with business and making sure that they create a conducive environment. And we also had presentations of investment opportunities in other countries, but as you know, the Tourism Investment Forum is hosted here in Upington, Northern Cape. So they, as the hosts, were also afforded the opportunity to present the vast array of investment projects that they have.
You're talking about the slowdown of the economies and getting the countries on the right economic path. But it also affects the people on the ground, creating job opportunities. How are we going to mitigate that?
Well, if we managed to attract local as well as foreign direct investment into the economy of the province and into this particular area, you are actually going to be able to create jobs, grow the economy in a far more inclusive way. And tourism is one of those sectors that can actually do that, create opportunities for jobs, ensure inclusion of women as well as young people, but also build into the tourism plant your culture, your heritage. So it's very pervasive as a sector and can actually build those benefits if properly managed and if the proper investment is mobilized.
Just lastly, it's day 2 tomorrow. What can we expect?
Well, tomorrow we'll be looking at areas such as air transport, connectivity, as well as mobility across the continent, because those are very critical issues. Investors need to know that you have connectivity to get to places. They need to know that you have the right regulatory environment, but they also need to know that it will be easy for them to invest because the demand that can be created will be met. So we'll be having a discussion then on connectivity in terms of road, in terms of rail, as well as air. And then we'll also focus on discussions around investing in building capacities, especially human capacity, because training and building skills is also very important. We will get lessons from some of the visiting people around, for example, investing strategically in events to build the economy of an area. We'll have discussions, for instance, with people from New Orleans and see how New Orleans has been able to build events that have gone on for 3, 4, 5 decades, and that are actually bringing a lot of money into the economy of New Orleans. So those are some of the sessions that will be covered tomorrow.
Thank you so much. Well, that was Muller, and he's from Mulvest Advisory, saying that tomorrow we'll be looking at air transport, connectivity, mobility, and also infrastructure investment. And we know for South Africa that will be a huge boost if we attract more tourists and lure more investors to not only the Northern Cape, to South Africa, but also to the African continent as leaders descended here. And we know that South Africa is currently buckling under severe economic pressure, contributing factors, load shedding, high food prices, you name it. But those are the discussions that's being taken place here, creating job opportunities into these variety of sectors that contributes immensely to the gross domestic product, GDP, as we know it.
And it's an advantage we must capitalize on. Thank you so much, Reginald Witbooi, sharing with us the latest out of the inaugural Africa Tourism Investment Forum. And we'll keep you updated on developments and agreements that emanate from that gathering.